Today, we're talking about how Miles created a fun sales process that made over 230,000 in a single month. And you're about to learn how to make selling enjoyable and profitable. Miles is the chief revenue officer, of course, and they won the school games multiple times. And in October, they were the first community that cracked over 200,000 in monthly recurring revenue.
And if you're a community leader who struggles with sales, then we have got you covered. You'll love this simple 3-step framework designed to make sales feel like a game. In this video, we're going to cover qualification, discovery, and then closing out the sale.
And stick to the end because Miles has some tricks on how to overcome objections without it feeling awkward. Let's start with qualification because that is really the first interaction that you have with this potential lead.
We want to start with like 3 main questions, which is situation. So understanding their situation. So, hey, where are you currently at? Readiness is the second one. How ready are you? Like, how much of a priority is this? And then finally, it's investment. If we find the working together to be a good fit, are you willing and able to invest in your education, or are you willing and able to invest in this project?
When we are qualifying the people, like, why is this important? Isn't it just easier to hop on a call with people, talk with them, kind of like build trust over time?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you're getting started, maybe take all the calls. And this is like even separate a little bit from sales, but when most people have new offers or they're selling a new product, you want to speak to as many people as possible because you get to an understanding of what your content, what kind of avatar your content's attractive. If you're getting a lot of calls and they're low quality, so they're not people who are super qualified, you're not closing, high percentage of these, but you're getting your calendar filled, then I would add some friction. Basically just more questions in the qualification steps, whether that's on the form or whether that's manually through outreach. And if you're getting no calls, then reduce friction. So if you're like literally getting like very low amounts of calls, then remove the investment question because you'd rather speak to some people than nobody, right? Whether that's even if they're not qualified.
When we think about the qualification, it's basically understanding what kind of type of lead we are encountering. In a game, it's understanding what kind of Pokemon that you're trying to catch or what kind of like monster you're fighting. When you are trying to catch water type Pokemons, then your product is built around. So you ideally want to not have any fire types in there. So let's say you have done the qualification. You know that the right kind of type of lead is in the call. The next step is how do we discover whether we can actually help them? What are some ways that you can make sure that you start building trust very early on so they don't have the feeling that they're being sold to?
Just by being like a normal person. In that initial stage, you can make jokes, you can break the ice. If they have a cool background, like mention it. Like where people are calling from. So do the effort, like put in the effort to look at their country code before you jump on the call with them. Get into a little bit of a conversation and just not like you don't want to go super deep, like super clear. Like you don't want to be asking them about their wife and kids and wasting a bunch of time. But to initially just build some trust, like one, you should do it before the call. And then 2, like when you get on the call, like be a normal human being. Don't just like, okay, let's get started. So are you ready to buy? Like it's really not about being like some crazy salesman with a lot of like good lines. It's more so just being yourself and leaning into that. And in my case, I obviously make a bunch of jokes. Like I make a lot of jokes on my calls, but that seems to work, and I make it really fun. So that kind of takes the pressure off the sale. And as soon as they can feel like they're not being sold to, that's huge. Another key point, and this is really key, like really, really good stuff in the setting the frame part of the call. So when you've kind of done that introduction and you set the frame, something I learned recently is like giving them an app. So that people are coming to your call like shoulders up, like, this guy's going to try to sell me something. And what I mean by that is like, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few questions on this call today, see if we can actually help you out. If we can, I'll show you what we've done for students like yourself. If we can't, we'll let you get back to your Tuesday. Like, don't worry about it. Like, no stress. You kind of like give them that trust. Like, hey, if it's not a good fit, no worries. We'll let you go. That way, and this is the really key part, that way, whenever you are ready to do something like this, you have us in the back of your pocket and you know how we can help you. That sound fair? Makes them feel like they can tell you the truth. It builds a lot of trust. And you can get into a real conversation.
It's a little bit like selling like a doctor. He seems to have like this whole process where he figures out like what I need in that moment and then giving me the right medicine. Sometimes the medicine that we are selling isn't the right one.
I completely agree. And like I actually use that example in my sales course
Right.
about the doctor. And it's like this, diagnose before you close. You need to ask them the questions to see if you can help. But also they're going to tell you a lot about, what they've tried before, like why necessarily that didn't work, like how they invested in it, I think before. like if they've been burnt by a bad program and you're selling a program, you probably want to know that before you get into like trying to make the sale. Otherwise, you're just going to create objections.
The way that you phrased it sounds like the more questions we ask, or the better the questions are, like all of this will be ammunition that we can then use later in the presentation. And like when
It's
we
exactly what I
like want
say.
to
Yeah.
shoot our shot, like the more qualification we have done before, the more times we can shoot, because if we know that support is really important on them, then we can like hit that target and tell them like, hey, I've listened to you, I know what's important to you. And I see a lot of people who are not asking the question. It's like shooting at a target blind, because you don't know what you're trying to hit and you just give your generic pitch.
Nailed it. Yeah, I love that analogy. And I again, you pulled another quote from my sales calls, which is the ammunition. You want to gather the ammunition in the discovery, and I really want anyone watching this who's going to go away and do some sales calls to just focus on discovery, because it's going to be a better customer experience, because they're going to, you're going to speak to them, you're going to ask better questions, and you're going to just close more because you've got more information. Where are you currently at? Where do you want to go? What's stopping you from kind of getting there? Where are you currently at? Where do you want to go? What have you tried before? Why is now a good time to do something like this? Which is a great question, because they might say it's not, and you save yourself 30 minutes. And why is now a good time to invest in something like this? They're going to sell you on why investing into your thing, or why looking into something like yourself is a good idea. I love these two questions so much. By saying why is now a good time, like why not 6 months ago, why not 6 months into the future, you're never going to get really the time objection, because you're asking them why is now a good time. They're going to sell themselves back. You're preventing objections later than coming up in the conversations.
You want them to shoot their own targets because they know what they want, and them just pointing at that and letting you know is like, this is really important and this is really important. Ideally, they kind of have sold themselves. How do you
Yeah.
finish that up? Like, how do you actually ask for the price? Because I know when I started, it was really awkward asking for the price for the first time. It just feels uncomfortable. You haven't really done this before. It's a little bit like the end game of chess. You just don't get to the end game, and that's why a lot of people just tend to suck at the end game and like
Yeah.
start blundering all over, even though like the beginning was really solid.
Yeah, really good way of putting it. I completely agree with that analogy as well. So I want to stay on the topic of selling themselves back, because you don't want to tell someone it's good for them. They want to tell you. So you want to hear it from them, not yourself, right? So when it comes to the end of the sale, you've just done your presentation. You kind of want to clarify if there's anything you want to go deeper into, right? So it's like, hey, again, I make a lot of jokes. Hey, I know I've got a British accent. I speak really fast. Was there anything you want me to kind of go over or go into more detail on? Or do you feel like that was kind of the thing you were looking for? So again, putting words in their mouth, like, do you feel like that was kind of the thing you were looking for? So yeah, Miles, yeah, it was really good. Okay, cool. And then we asked them like a couple of like maybe 3 quick questions to sell themselves back. So a lot of mistakes I see from closers or salespeople or whatever is that they like, oh, they said, yeah, it's good. They didn't ask me any more questions. They didn't want me to go deeper into anything. So you're ready to get started, and then it's like, whoa, chill, like, and then you kind of scare them off, and you don't get the sale. So I ask 3 main questions, which is simply, hey, Lucas, I'm curious, like, I went through a lot right there, and obviously everyone's a little bit different, right? So I want to hear from you, not me. Where are you going to get the most value out of what I just presented to you, what I just showed you? Is it going to be the Q&A calls? Is it going to be the community? Are you like a community person? Is it going to be the course, like the A to Z roadmap? So what specifically for you are you going to make most use of inside the program? So that's the first question. And then we're going to reference back the goal that they told us in the discovery phase. But do you feel like from what I showed you, we can help you get to XYZ goal that you told us, they told us in the discovery? So it's referencing back that goal. Say it's 10K a month, because everyone loves that, right? Hey, Lucas, from what I showed you, do you feel like from what all of everything, the roadmap, the Q&A calls, the community, like all of that is going to help you get to that 10K a month mark? Then they can sell themselves back. Yes. They probably just say yes. And then when they say yes, you say why. So that's the third question. You want them to elaborate. And this is also true for the discovery phase. I didn't really touch on it. But if they don't give you, like, if they're giving you surface level answers, just ask why. Just pause, like, take a breath. Don't follow this. Like, don't go to the next question. Ask why. Why is it important, etc. So yeah, going back to the close. Finally, it's like, hey, do you feel like we can get you to this goal? They say yes. If they say no, then that's more upstream of a problem, and you probably need to do a better job of presenting. But say like they say yes, then we want to ask why, and then they'll sell themselves back a final time. And then a simple way to close is saying, okay, awesome, Lucas. How about we get you started so we can move away from problem and start moving towards outcome? And then they'll say, let's do it, or they'll say no, and then we have to handle that. But that's an easy way to close. It's just like, hey, how about we get you started so we can start moving away from not having enough time with the kids and not having enough money at the end of the month and start moving towards that 10K a month mark. How's that sound? And they
Nice.
say, because rarely people will say, no, I don't want to move away from the problem and move towards the goal. So they'll either say yes, or they'll give you they won't give you a hard no.
Gotcha. I think that's why it's so important to have a very specific outcome that you are selling and not just have something that is very vague, like
Yeah.
we will help you become more fit. It's like, what does that even mean? Right?
Yeah.
So
What
like
does that even
it's
mean?
not a yes or no thing, but if it's like we help you lose like 10 pounds in 30 days, and it's like, do you want that? Yes or no? Something that I'd love to finish on is how do you make the whole process fun? Because sales is like a volume game. And if you don't
Yeah.
have fun yourself, if you feel like there are these awkward moments and like this tension when you're asking that, how do you make this process fun so you can do this over and over again? Because like that's what's required in sales, right? It's a volume game, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So the key aspect is just to keep playing. But how do you do that?
That's a great question. And like we make it fun in many ways. We have a great Slack channel. We post like emojis when we make a sale, and we have a lot of fun as a team. But more specifically, with the calls and my mindset and everyone's mindset, I genuinely believe everyone should have a similar mindset when it comes to sales, is that it's not about sales, right? You have a moral obligation on this, right? If you're selling, and this is why conviction is so important, right? If you're fully convicted in your product, service, whatever, software, whatever, right? Mainly for you guys like products, right? If you're completely convicted and you believe it can help the prospects and the avatar achieve certain outcomes, then you're almost morally obligated to get them to buy. My point is that if you're fully convicted in your product and your service, and like just like I am, I'm fully convicted. I know it's helped hundreds of people, whatever, right? So if you have that full conviction and you know it can help people achieve a desired outcome, it doesn't become a sales call. It becomes a help call, because you're getting on the call to diagnose, and then if they're a good fit and you can help them, like it, then you're morally obligated to overcome objections. It doesn't become an objection, it doesn't become a fight. It's like, how can I get into this person's shoes, understand their way of thinking, and show them how this can help? So it doesn't even feel like pressure. It doesn't feel like high tension, because all I'm doing is helping people make decisions that are going to make themselves better. So it feels fun in that sense.
Awesome. Miles, appreciate you coming on. I always love
Awesome.
learning and seeing how Rangers at the highest level are playing and synthesizing this for everyone else to take inspiration from and make sales fun again. Because if you do it right, it is really enjoyable because you end
Yeah.
up helping people. If you sell what you love and you help people, then it's one of the best jobs that you can have.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's you're just helping people. That's all you need to. That's the mindset.